Welcome to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane.
This podcast will cover our trips to haunted hotels and locations.
We will go over a brief history of the location, our personal experiences, and even rate some of the ghost tours in that area.
Join us on our haunted escapes.
Welcome back to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane. I want to thank you for listening. We did not post anything last week because I had the flu. I'm still trying to get over the last of it, so my voice is very hoarse. I apologize beforehand. Today we're going to be talking about our trip to Salem, Massachusetts. Now, when we went to Salem, we did not stay in a haunted hotel. However, we did wind up experiencing something weird, which we'll tell you all about.
Chris is experiencing, I'm thinking it's maybe some form of laryngitis. So bear with us. We're trying to get back to normal dealing with flu season. So our trip to Salem was our first trip together, and we went there before we got married. I think it was back in 2015.
Yeah, I think so.
And first we stopped at Plymouth, and then we made our way to Salem.
Yeah, and when we went to Plymouth, we saw the Mayflower and
Plymouth Rock.
And then we did a ghost tour in Plymouth. And that one was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool ghost tour.
And what were your first impressions of Plymouth?
Plymouth is really neat. It's very small. It's a lot of tight little streets, tight corners. The waterfront's very, very nice. Obviously, the Mayflower is really neat, and you can hear all about when they first came over and they landed. It was a nice little trip, and it was something that was on the way to Salem. So we just hit that first, stayed there for the day. Then we checked in at our hotel. We stayed in Danvers, Massachusetts.
Yes.
And that we just stayed at a Night's Inn. Nothing big there. And after we checked in, we went back to Plymouth that night for our first ghost tour of the trip.
Yeah, when I've never been to Salem or Plymouth, so when I first got there, it was like, you know how you walk into those little picturesque seaside towns? Well, that's what Plymouth was. There was the waterfront. There were these little shops. It was very, very cute. And then we saw Plymouth Rock, which was much smaller than I anticipated. And there's the rocks down on the shore, and then they have like this guardrail around it.
Yeah, and you can look down.
Yeah, you look down at the rocks. So that was pretty neat. And then we had our ghost tour at Plymouth the first night that we were there, and that was pretty neat as well. Okay.
When we were in Plymouth, the first ghost tour was called Dead of Night Ghost Tours, and it was actually like pretty much a ghost hunt.
Yeah, they were really neat. The way that we found them is we were walking around Plymouth and we see this big hearse that is all decorated with like their name and everything, and it said that they do ghost tours, so we signed up right away.
Yeah, it was neat. It was long too. It took us about 3 hours.
Yeah, it was about 3 hours.
We went to Plymouth's cemetery. We spent a lot of time in there where we were able to go around and we were taking, use your camera, take pictures, all that stuff. And then after that, the thing that was really neat was they took us into these two old buildings.
Yeah.
And the buildings, it was the same thing. You were able to go there and they told you the stories about it. You took pictures of it. And the one building, they said you could actually rent a room to stay the night. we didn't know about that until we went there. So we'll have to go back and do it.
Yeah. Oh, good.
No, the room is supposedly like super haunted. You actually get to go into the room during the ghost tour and you get to see it, but it would be cool to stay there.
Yeah, the when we went into the houses where the house that had a lot of like haunted objects, there was a lot of like old baby dolls, old furniture, and just being in there, you got like a weird feeling. And yeah, you could rent that.
They're upstairs.
You could rent the upstairs for a night, and we didn't do that. We were only there 2 nights, but yeah, we'll have to do that next time.
Yeah, so after we did that, we headed back to the hotel, and then the next day was our first day in Salem.
Mm-hmm.
And Salem, everybody's heard of it. It's got the witch trials. It's pretty neat. And we also learned while we were there that they also were a haven for piracy, which was pretty interesting. That I didn't know. I had been to Salem before when I was a young kid though. I went there with my mom, my dad, and my brother and sister.
Yes, he has a picture outside of the Witch Museum. I have to see if I can find it.
Yeah, where I'm in the stocks. But that place was neat too. So, as you know, Salem is all about the witch trials.
What were your first impressions when you got to Salem?
It was really nice. It reminded me a lot of like a Cape May.
Yeah, like the Victoria Mall.
Yeah, and also even like the waterfront reminded me of like Cape May's waterfront. It was all old houses and it was very nice. And we were there over the 4th of July.
Yes, that was cool.
So there it was kind of crowded, but not too bad. I want to go during Halloween. They say that's the main time to go.
Yes, but for Halloween, their hotels book out years in advance.
Yeah, so if you were planning on doing that, you'd have to you'd have to call like this January for maybe October if you were lucky.
Maybe October this year or next year. But yeah, I'm gonna get into a little. Well, when we first got to Salem, they definitely have a theme. The theme is, they really capitalize on the witch trials and everything that has to do with that. There's about 5 or 6 museums, reenactments, basically anything you could think of that has to do with the witch trials. They have it there in Salem. And I'm just going to go over a brief history, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with. And this comes right from the Salem website. It says, the Salem witch trials begin. This is the event that Salem is most known for. In only 3 months' time, 19 innocent people, 14 women and 5 men, were hanged, and 1 man was pressed to death. And that's Giles Corey, who we'll get into later. It was a time of hysteria when courts believed in the devil, spectral evidence, and teenage girls. The trials ceased when Governor William Phipps disbanded the court after his wife was accused of being a witch herself. A superior court of judicature formed to replace the court of, forgive me for these names, Oyer and Terminer, and did not allow spectral evidence. The new court released those awaiting trial and pardoned those awaiting execution. The trials were over.
Isn't it funny how the guy was willing to put all those people on trial and kill them, but the minute his wife got accused of it, he stopped everything.
I know, that's something.
Our first place we checked out while we were inside Salem was we went to the Salem Witch Museum, and then there's also the Salem Dungeons. The dungeon is pretty interesting. They actually have, before you go in the dungeon, you can sit there, and they have they put on a mock trial, so you can, and they talk about it, and that way you can see the reenactors acting out the witch trial. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, it's crazy how the court and the people were just so eager to believe that, yeah, it was witchcraft. And they believed these kids, and if you just accuse somebody of being a witch, well, then, all right, you're going to trial.
Yeah, that was all with the spectral evidence, where you didn't even have to have proof. If you wanted to,
If you wanted somebody's land,
yeah,
well,
you just told them, well,
yeah, I
so and
saw
so is a
them
witch.
talking to the devil, praying to the devil.
And they would believe it. It's really insane. Imagine if it was like that nowadays still. Jeez. Thank God that it's not anymore.
Yeah, it was that mass hysteria.
Yeah, and that was a big thing that a lot of the places talked about, the mass hysteria there. And we also went to, they have like, it's a monument for all the victims of the witch trials. You can go there and they have stone, like it's like a stone, they look like benches.
Yeah.
And they have like the names of every person who was
killed.
I think Salem.
That was right outside of the cemetery, wasn't it?
I don't remember. But I remember that they had that there, and then they also had, like I said, they had a pirate museum. Now, everybody hears Salem, and you think of the witch trials. That's what they're known for. But apparently, it was a huge thing for piracy. And they have the pirate museum was really interesting. That was something that nobody really talks about.
Yeah, that was cool too.
Yeah, and they tell you like stories of different pirates there, and there were a couple famous ones there. Like I think Blackbeard is mentioned, Captain Kidd, a couple other ones. It was really neat.
And then when we were in I believe it was the Witch Dungeon Museum. Just going back to that for a second. In the Witch Dungeon Museum, when you're going up the stairs, is that the one that has the bodies that are hanging?
Yes, because a lot of people think the witches were burnt at the stake here. They weren't.
They were.
They were. It was. They were hung. They were hung on a hanging tree in Gallows Hill. And the one museum that Diane's talking about, when you go down these stairs, there's a mock-up of the hanging tree, and they have bodies.
Yeah, it's covered in sheets, and it's
hanging from
it.
It was very interesting. If you're really interested in it, honestly, go there.
Yeah.
And then watch the movie The Witch. They really definitely hit a lot of. It's very close to what they really believed.
Yeah, it's more to that mass hysteria, and people are so eager to believe something bad about you, and not listen to your side. But yeah, the movie The Witch is not one of my favorites. It's one of Chris's favorites. But
I like it because it's very historically accurate.
Yes, it is very historically accurate from that time period. And I do have to say, if you're someone like me and doesn't like mannequins, wax figures, dummies, anything like that, just be prepared, because almost everywhere you go into in Salem has wax figures, dummies, that are creepy and I'm sure move around at night. And yeah.
Then we also went to, they have this village there, and it's a little bit it's not exactly in Salem, it's like right on the outskirts of Salem. There's like a park, and then next to the park there's a living
history museum.
Living history museum. And fun fact, the living history museum that we went to was actually the village they used for the beginning of Hocus Pocus, where Zachary Binks is chasing after his sister.
Thackeray Binks.
Well, Thackeray.
Yes, if you're a huge Hocus Pocus fan of the first one, you can go and see the house. And even like the little front farmyard part where Thackeray Binks is looking out the window, and it's right where the movie was filmed.
Yeah, that was interesting, and they have like little things there you can go to where they'll talk about it, and it's very interesting. And if you like that type of stuff, or yeah, if you're a fan of the movie, you could go there. And also on the movie, when we went on our ghost walk, they took us past the guy I just mentioned. We walked right by the outside where it's the town hall in the movie, where the sisters go in and they sing the CCR song.
Yep. Yeah, that was seeing where Hocus Pocus was from was a big highlight for me because I love that movie. Chris isn't a big fan. He tolerates it, but I really love that movie. The second one was okay, but nothing beats the original.
So after we saw that, we wound up that night. We went to the ghost tour, and the ghost tour was.
It was a really good ghost tour.
Yeah, it was. It was one of the best ones that I think I've been on. And it was called, what was the name of that ghost tour? Dead of Night?
No, Spellbound.
Spellbound.
Spellbound Ghost Tour.
Spellbound Ghost Tours. It was really interesting. And they took you through everything, and the one place they take you is the church where outside Giles Corey was pressed to death.
Okay, and now here's a little bit of history of Giles Corey that we learned on our ghost tour. Giles Corey was pressed to death in 1692 when he refused to participate in the witch trials. He used a legal tactic at the time called standing mute and would not agree to participate in a jury of his peers. Because of this, Sheriff Corwin sentenced him to a strong and harsh punishment called pressing, where he was to be stripped naked and have heavy stones placed upon him until he agreed to the trial. He was tortured for days and told the executioner to put on more weight because he was not going to yield. It is said that if you take a picture where he was pressed to death, you will get bad luck.
So now, we were told this during the ghost walk, pretty much that exact thing, verbatim. So as we're leaving, and the guy tells us about some people who've taken pictures and then had things happen. Like he's like this one guy took a picture there, and on his way back, he crashed into a pole and he wound up messing up his car.
Yeah.
And then there was another person who, same type of thing, took a picture and then their car was like broken into and stolen that night. So he's like, he wouldn't recommend you taking pictures. So as we're sitting there and we're hearing it, I keep telling Diane, I'm going to take a picture, I'm going to take a picture. And she's like, no, don't.
Yes, I'm like, don't take the pictures. Like, we don't need any bad luck.
So then I'm like, yeah, all right, I won't. So then as we start walking away, what do? I turn around and I snap a picture of the area.
Yep, and he was so gleeful about it too. He's like, I took the picture.
And then Diane turns around to me and she was a little bit aggravated at me for doing so, but I was like, oh, there ain't nothing in it. See, we're fine. Well, we
weren't fine.
Yeah, we had some little bit of weird things happen afterwards. So, which we're going to be getting to in a second. The other thing I need to tell you about is Gallows Hill.
Yes.
The guy talks about Gallows Hill, and he was telling us that's where they were hung, and that people shouldn't go up there because apparently there was some crimes that were acted out in the area on Gallows Hill, and he said that there was rumors of like a devil demonic cult
like
that was meeting
worship
up there, and that they busted it and all kinds of stuff he was telling us.
Yeah, so it's not a good place to go, especially at night.
Yes. So then he goes after he tells everybody, he's like, so now after I told you all not to go, who's all going to go? And of course 90% of the people in the group raised their hands. So then he told us how to get to Gallows Hill if we wanted to go. So the tour was over. We get in the car, and we're like, let's try to get to Gallows Hill. So we put in the GPS to take us to Gallows Hill,
Mm-hmm.
and it drives us to Gallows Hill. And by now it had to have been about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And we were getting ready to. We were going to go and check it out, but there was just some weird little things that made us decide not to do it. There was now it's like 11:30 at night, and there was some guy sitting there with his truck. And,
yeah, he was just sitting there idling, watching people come.
yeah, he was like watching the cars, and it was just, we got bad vibes, so we're like, let's just go back to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the weird things started happening. So we put in the thing for the hotel, and we're trying.
The address
and the GPS. So we're trying to get to the hotel. Well, it kept like messing up. We would follow the GPS exactly how it said, and it led us around Salem back to Gallows Hill.
Yeah, back to Gallows Hill the first time, and we were like, well, this is weird. And I'm like, why did you take that picture? Yeah,
it did it a second time, too. So 2 times in a row, it led us to it. And then the third time, I had to turn my phone all the way off, rebooted it, and then we were able to find our way using GPS to get back to the highway. But it wasn't over. Then on the highway, the GPS again continued to malfunction. Now, I had just turned the phone off. I had just rebooted everything, but it was still messing up. And we only were staying like 5 minutes away.
Yeah, we weren't far.
And it wound up taking us almost a half hour to get back there because the thing kept taking us different places. And I don't know if listeners who've ever been up to like New England, it is very eerie driving on those roads because it's all like very, I don't want to say mountainous, but it's like rocky terrain and
there's even signs that say watch for like falling rocks and stuff. Like, well, I'll watch for them, but then what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, right. So we're driving around, and at one point, the UPS again we put in the GPS. Again, we put in the name of the address of the hotel, so it should take you right there. Well, this one took us down the one part we went down this long, dark, like forested area.
Yeah.
And we pulled out in the back, and there was like 4 or 5 little trailers sitting back there, and it was just really weird, and we didn't know. It didn't say it was like a community or anything. It was just like people were just living back there in the woods.
And then at one point we were like, all right, we're not going to use GPS. There was a store that was open, and we're like, we're going to stop in the store. We're just going to ask for directions back to the highway, and that would get us back to the hotel. So we're about to go. We pull up next to the store. We're about to go up to the door to knock on it or to go into it. And the lights go off, the shades come down, they lock the doors, and they wouldn't answer us.
Yeah, they wouldn't answer, so that was weird too. And it was just, we kept like, and then you're driving up there, and it kept feeling like we were seeing like things on the sides of the road. And it was creepy. So a half hour later, we finally get back to
the
hotel. And I think the way I finally got back to Diane, it's like, look, the guy said you have to apologize to Giles Corey.
Yes, it's very Robert the Dollish.
Yeah, and so I did. I was like, all right. At this point, it was late. We were tired. It was getting really scary.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, fine. So I said I apologized to Giles Corey. I'm like, I'm sorry I took your picture. And next thing you know, the GPS automatically.
Yes, and we're not not making this
No,
up.
I'm
This
not-
actually happened
Yeah,
to us.
we're not making this up. No sooner do I apologize, the GPS recalculates and it leads us right back to the hotel as if there was no problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever go up there, I wouldn't recommend taking a picture of that area of the slate where the man was pressed, unless of course you want to see what kind of creepy adventure it'll have for you.
Yeah. Because, again, Giles Corey, he wasn't a very nice man. He testified against his wife in the witch trials. He beat one of his farmhands to death with a stick. He just wasn't a very nice person.
Yeah, so I guess we were testing fate there when I took the picture, but now looking back on it, it was still cool. I would probably do it again.
Yeah, now that we're home and it's been a couple years, yeah, he says it was cool.
So we, like I said, we did not stay at a haunted hotel this time. So I don't have a story about ghosts or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But this was the weird story that happened to us there, and
mm-hmm.
It was definitely scary. I mean, it really was. I mean, we didn't know the area. The GPS was messing up, and then it fixes itself right after I apologized to the spirit of Giles Corey.
It was a series of weird events.
Yeah, so that's why I would definitely think that it should go on to this podcast. Now, I would recommend, if people have a chance, definitely try to get up there.
Oh, yeah. Salem, the whole New England, is very beautiful. If you have a chance to go, we would definitely recommend going. We would also definitely recommend these 2 ghost tours we went on, the Dead of Night ghost tour in Plymouth and Spellbound ghost tours in Salem. They both have websites and you could look them up.
Yes, they were very interesting. And also, we plan on going back up there because we didn't have a chance to go to the House of Seven Gables, which is there. From Nathaniel Hawthorne's story.
Yeah, I think they were doing construction or something.
Yeah, it wasn't open. They were working on it. But I want to go back so we can go see that. And who knows, maybe I'll take another picture of the church. And
no, you're not doing
that. So that was the story for this week for Salem. I know it's not quite as much as the other ones, but it was still a ghostly, haunted escape.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend, if you guys have a chance, definitely go there. We stayed at the Knights Inn in Danvers, which was very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And or you could stay in one of the many haunted hotels inside Salem. I mean, I think you can actually stay in the House of Seven Gables.
Oh, that would be cool. We might have to do that.
Yeah. So I would definitely recommend going there. So thank you for listening to our story. We will be back hopefully next week.
Yes.
We'll be talking about, I guess, probably Gettysburg.
Yeah, Gettysburg.
We've been to Gettysburg quite a few times, and there's been some interesting things that have happened there.
And you also want to point out that we did release a video of the EVPs that we found from the Myrtle's Plantation, and that is on our YouTube channel. You can search Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane, or you can also look up Pen Epic Productions on YouTube. Either one will get you to the video.
So thank you very much for joining us on another Haunted Escape.
Bye!
Bye-bye.
By the way, if you want to send us your stories, send them to penepicproductions@gmail.com. Thank you! Bye!